This is my BMW 128i. I've owned it for a little over 2 years and I put over 50,000 miles on it. I bought this a few months before the COVID pandemic, and at the time, I was also considering a few other cars. Now, those other cars have skyrocketed in price. So did I make a mistake buying this 128i? I bought this car shortly after graduating college and getting my first full-time job. I was considering a few other cars before this though, E92 M3s, Evo 10s, or just shooting for my dream car, a Porsche 911. 996 911s were in the teens for prices and 997s were in the high 20s to mid 30s for a good example. Now in 2022, the numbers have inflated. For example, a blue 996 in low mileage and rare aero spec I was looking at was $18,000 with 50,000 miles on it. Recently, I saw a similar, if not the exact same car come up for sale. The asking price? $56,000. The listing was gone a few days later. I can only assume it's been sold. So did I mess up not buying that Porsche and buying my 128i instead? First, some backstory on this car. This 128i was prepped for SCCA Autocross, specifically the Street Touring Extreme class. In a nutshell, this class is for modified cars that are still very streetable, a balance between high performance and daily drivability. This car had a history of being relatively successful on the national level. The 128i is a front-engine rear-wheel drive layout. It has a naturally aspirated inline-6 sporting a displacement of 3 liters. This car has been modified for the SCCA STX class, and without going too in-depth of the rulebook, the car is relatively maxed out, but some of the big modifications to consider is it has a set of JRZ 2-way remote reservoir coilovers, a clutch-type limited slip differential, and some bolt-ons bringing power up to 240 at the wheels. For a more in-depth parts list, I have a video link in the description below. So what's this car like to live with? Every morning, with my coffee in the cup holder, I turn on the latest episode of Call Her Daddy on my way to work, and I'm able to mentally check out from this monotonous simulation we're in, just like any other good daily driver could do. It also gets mid-20s city and mid-30s highway fuel economy, so it's not bad. It's very easy to drive across the country in this car as well. Now with the 911, it could very well still do this, but if you're the overthinking type, or broke, this autonomous bliss might be harder to achieve. You see here, there's this thing called the forums, and in these forums, there is a boogeyman, and the boogeyman can shapeshift. Depending on the year of 911, the boogeyman's called IMS failure, sometimes it's called de-chunking, and it can even go by the alias of bore scoring. Regardless, even though these failures can happen, they happen within a fraction of percentage of the cars. The boogeyman though, boogeyman's there 100% of the time. So like I said, if you buy one of those 911s, the boogeyman might ride with you wherever you go. The remedy? Pretty easy. Have more money. So that way you can either preventatively fix all the issues it could have, or if you do end up becoming a statistic, you can shell out the cash for a new engine. I'm the overthinking type. Luckily, the N52 engine doesn't have any major issues. The car overall has been relatively straightforward to work on and easy to maintain. And the price of replacement parts are very reasonable, but sometimes aftermarket parts can range more compared to similar JDM or USDM cars. If this is your first European car, you may need to add some more tools to your collection. For this car, I have a set of torque spits, e-torque spits, and an oil filter wrench, but otherwise your standard tools are the same. Also, I would suggest some form of code scanner. I have a little Bluetooth plug-in for the OBD port called the Carly scanner, and it lets you get some of those BMW specific codes. They're not too expensive and definitely worth it. A downside is in some areas, aluminum bolts were used throughout the engine, so when they're removed, you have to replace them. Otherwise, they may not clamp down the same. There are a lot of resources outlining when this needs to be done though, and FCP Euro sells kits with everything you need when some form of maintenance goes underway. Also, they have a lifetime warranty on anything they sell. Keep that in mind when factoring the cost of maintenance. Now, I will say, I'm not sponsored by FCP Euro. I genuinely use them all the time. I recently warrantied out a set of brake pads before a track day. They're really easy to work with and I highly recommend them. Consider that this engine was used everywhere, from BMW X5, 3 Series, 5 Series, and 7 Series, the list goes on. A mass-produced engine generally means there are a lot of resources available to the end user. With that said, even if the worst was to happen, used replacement engines run around the $1,000 price range. The only major issue I've personally had was a failed water pump. These use an electric water pumps, and they're recommended to replace within 50 to 60,000 miles. Mine died right at 59,000 miles. I was already aware of the issue though, and I was playing a little bit of Russian roulette, but I limited myself to small drives so I wouldn't be stranded. I did the replacement myself, and it wasn't too bad. It took me about 3 to 4 hours, taking my time. The kit to do the whole job costs around $400. It's a bit pricey, but the system works really well, especially on the racetrack. So a little history on this car. The first owner only had it for about 4,000 miles, and the car got lemon lawed for a faulty taillight harness. What? Anyway, the next two owners religiously autocrossed this car in STX. Both of them had success at a national level with this car. I believe the last owner of this actually got third place overall at nationals, and then has won a lot of pro solos and other events like that. Then I came along like a 6-year-old doped up on caffeine and sugar, got my Cheeto covered fingers all over the car and smeared them all over. Since I've gotten this car, I've done a lot of autocross still. I've also taken it to the track and done NASA. I got my TT license in this car actually. And I've also taken it to a few drift events. I have my Z for drifting mostly, but hey, this is a rear wheel drive also, might as well see what it can do. So I have a lot of seat time in this car, and I've put about 50,000 miles on it since I purchased it. And one thing I can say is the car comes relatively well set up for the track. You only need a few things really to get the car competent, and that would be wheels and tires. I guess you could skip the wheels, right? You just need good tires. Brakes, good brake pads and fluid, and lastly an oil cooler. An oil cooler is good. Now there is no kit for an oil cooler for this car. I had to custom piece it together using 125i parts. But luckily, your boy in front of the camera here has a video for it, so if you guys are interested in that, I'll have a link down below. The oil gets really hot in these cars, making them one-lap wonders before you have to do a cool-off lap. The addition of an oil cooler allowed me to constantly lap the car. I've also driven this car to every track event I've ever done at this. Even the ones out of state, I've driven this car to the event. It's never been trailered. It's always driven there and driven back. And when I get on track, I abuse the car terribly. But one thing a 911 can't do is I can't fit a full set of wheels and tires in the back of a 911. This car, back seats fold down, I'm able to put a full set of wheels and tires, so I have my track set in the back, and then I have spare parts, tools, and some other stuff that I bring with me in the trunk. A 911 can't do that, that's for sure. This has led me to boil this argument down to 2 points. I had the choice to buy my dream car or live out my driving dreams. I picked the latter, and I don't feel like I would have regretted owning a 911, but I don't think I would have been as fulfilled as I am now. What this 128i has given me is given me ability. Ability to own the car, drive it to track days, and remove the veil of worry. The ability to travel out of state and compete in national SCCA events, ability to drive the car in NASA and get my TT license, ability to travel, ability to compete, and ability to adventure and make new friends. The amount of personal accomplishments and accolades made with this car have been huge for me, and I have to thank this car for it. Now, I'm not saying a 911 couldn't do this, but there's also a chance I may have been too worried to drive a 911 on the road course in fear of a major repair bill, or the cost of ownership may have inhibited me from doing as much as I have done. Racing isn't cheap, that's for sure. Now, if I wasn't addicted to track days, I think the 911 would have objectively been the better car, but my driving doesn't stop at street driving. Where I'm abusing the car really hard at the track, it's kind of nice having a car that is relatively easier to work on and cost of parts are a lot lower than those of Porsches. Now, keep in mind though, this 128 I have here is kind of hard to find. The parts aren't hard to find, it's just this package is. Finding a 6-speed manual 128i in the US, and most times nationwide, there's probably only be 4 to 5 available. I think in Europe they're a little more frequent. They come on, I think they're a 130i or something like that. But if you're in the US, just keep that in mind. They are kind of hard to find, but they're a very good experience. Now, this one's a bit of a unicorn because it's a 128i, 6-speed, M factory package, and a slick top, so no sunroof. Honestly, I have to thank this car for helping me, for creating all these memories and helping me achieve some of my goals. This car has shown me that not only is it a tool for driving, but it is an obtainable experience. For me, this car is a forever car. I can't see myself getting rid of it, and I will continue to drive it like the over-caffeinated kid I am. So to answer the question we started with, no, I don't regret buying this car. But that doesn't mean I don't want to see a 911 parked next to it in the garage one day.